Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly Fuel Arts online art and tech webinar series. Throughout the last 11 months, we've been inviting startups, investors, fundraisers, strategists who represent different parts of the market, both financial part, startup part, mentorship, or uh, economy, or even crypto economy and fashion. So today is the right time to speak about the role of mass media in Web3. And for that, we were happy to invite uh, an editor of the leading arts media in Web3, in our opinion, which is called Jing Culture in Crypto. I believe you all subscribe to this fantastic media. So we're happy to invite Yifan Liu, the editor of Jing Culture and Crypto since February 2020. The background of Yifan lies in media, so she graduated from master's program in media culture and communication from New York University, and today she covers the latest creative technology trends across the NFT sector.
Yeah.
So, hi, Yifan.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your fantastic job.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, as always, with us, my co-host is Sonia Stubblebine, project manager, mostly known as the project manager of Fuelarts.
Right. Hi, Yifan. So excited to have a conversation with you and ask you all about Gene culture and crypto. So let's start.
Yeah, let's move forward. So our first question is quite obvious. In the middle of the bear market, you have changed the name of the platform from Jing Culture and Commerce to Jing Culture and Crypto. So what was behind this decision?
Yeah, so it's definitely a very important change for us, and we think it's a great way to show our visions about the art world. But the idea behind the old JCC and the new JCC is actually pretty consistent. It's all about thinking about art world as something forward thinking and into the future. So actually, when we first started the June Culture and Commerce, we already started covering lots of culture tech sectors. But in that time, it was more about immersive exhibitions and interactive technologies. And then after the concepts like NFTs or metaverse start to emerge, we just think, oh, we saw lots of success on this topic, so we want to cover more. So the more we learn about this and the more potentials we see in this world, like how they can help with supporting the creator economy and like fundraising effort and audience engagement. So that's why we decided to, oh, this is so important. We must concentrate on this field. So that's why, yeah.
Right. And I also want to ask you, as an editor, like how would you define the mission of Gene culture and crypto?
I would define it as like a bridge. So we want to connect the art world and culture world, which I think is sort of similar to the few arts idea. And because we think this kind of intersections are where the most important conversations are happening. They can be really game changing in the future. But for now, there are lots of barriers and gaps in the communications because like for the cultural world, it can be a little bit threatening to get into the crypto world because there are so many abstract terms and concepts, especially if you don't have a background in technology. And for the tech world, on the contrary, they would find it. They usually approach this project as a very technology perspective, but some of their clients and partners may not be tech people, and their customers may be like cultural audience if they want to launch a like metaverse exhibitions or like art NFTs. So they need someone to help them to translate their language into something more understandable and also more attractive for the cultural audience. So I think this is where we can play a role, like not just being a passive bridge, but more like a storyteller, a narrator. So like because we believe the narrative of the brand and projects is a key to their success besides the technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Yifan. And also thank you for making parallels with your mission and the mission of Fuelarts. We also think that bridges are too important, especially in the world of turbulence. So everyone wants to be connected with someone. So it's good that with your help, the audience, the crypto community in particular, is connected with the fresh and trusted info. But as soon as we started talking about the audience, so may I ask you, what is the main audience as you define it, as you see it now, of Jing Culture and Crypto?
According to our recent audience research, about 40% are from the culture organizations, 37% from the technology companies and startups and platforms, and 13% from the agencies, and 10% from the buyers and collectors. And if we talk about the regional distribution, so half of them are from the USA and Europe, and 10% from China, and 40% from other areas. So we have a very global distribution, because we have like accounts in Western websites and Twitter, LinkedIn, and also we also have accounts in Chinese social media like WeChat, Weibo, and Little Red Book. So it helps us to grow our audience through a global landscape.
And if we're talking about segments and topics that you cover in Jing Culture and Crypto, what segments of Web3 exactly do you cover there?
As mentioned, we mainly focus on the intersection between the culture world and the technology world. So we basically have 4 pillars. One, it's about industry profile. So that's where we have lots of conversations with the key players and leaders. And the second one is about project. So it's about from metaverse build out to the NFT drops and everything that about project we provide the in-depth report. And next is about the market analysis, and this is also where the China's market were mentioned separately. And the next one is about the technologies. We spotlight the technologies that support industrial development and provide infrastructure.
I also noticed that on the website you have a separate part about like calendar. So you create like a calendar of different events in ArtTech and NFT related. I absolutely love that, and I thought it's like so convenient for everyone, and you can just subscribe to that and get all the access without doing this like maybe not even boring, but very long research of all these events and everything that you need to know and need to attend.
Yeah, I think that's like an expansion of our mission. So like being a bridge where we can exchange information and build further connections and the communications.
Absolutely.
You know, the pandemic showed, for instance, that the 2 most expensive assets that a human has is time and knowledge. So by providing a calendar, you help people to maintain time, and by providing info, and mass media helps them to help their knowledge growing. Regarding your website, thanks, Sonia, for touching this topic. Let's go deep in that, because I believe that is an area of interest of many of your readers. So from your website, we see that Jing Culture and Crypto puts Chinese Web3 segment separately. So why is that?
Well, first of all, China is a very big market and it's growing, so it can be pretty attractive for overseas companies to want to tap into this market. But also, China is very different. It's very unique, and like it's different in terms of culture, regulatory environments, policies, ideologies. And this kind of uniqueness is not something temporary or new, but something deeply rooted in a very long history and developed through this history. So we think that if we neglect this kind of uniqueness and just put it together with all other country situations, then it can cause lots of confusions and like something doesn't make sense at all in China, but somehow makes sense, and something not understandable, or lots of misjudgments. So we just think it's really important to recognize this kind of difference. And like, for example, there's a kind of argument that is pretty popular in some Western countries saying that China is fundamentally irrelevant to the Web3, or like China can never achieve Web3 because China is so insistent on the centralization. Well, they think Web3 is about like decentralization. But I think this kind of judgments is one example of how you can get like wrong judgments if you base your whole idea on a very Western system of definitions about what Web3 is and how to analyze them. So we decided to put this into a separate section because we want to just make something more unbiased, and also to let the audience not only know what's going on in China, but also better understand it.
Great. Thank you. I should please let me add a bit, because even from our discovery, from our research, as you know, we're publishing the Fuelarts startups report based on investments in ArtTech and NFT segment infrastructural startups. So from that report, from our research, we see that China, both the mainland China, also Hong Kong and Taiwan, are producing first-class startups. They're using very fresh ideas. The founders are very well educated. So that's why we definitely think that as for Web3, China is ready, more than ready for Web3. We can confirm that. And also thanks for highlighting some key findings from our latest report on your website. And we were happy to add some, to undisclose some more information about the Asian market for you. So just our joint audience, please go to Jing Culture and Crypto and read their article based on the key findings on our September 1, 2022 Fuelarts Startups report, plus some insights directly regarding the Asian market startups.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for doing that. And I also want to continue the topic that Denis started with Web3 development in China. Actually, how would you define how is it different to development of Web3 in the United States? And what kind of peculiarities can you list, can you name of Web3 development in China in general?
I think the key word here is the centralization. So like the whole development path is following the general direction of centralization. For example, in America or like other countries, they use the public chains a lot, which is believed to be more decentralized. But in China, we use the consortium chain. So it's like it doesn't have cryptocurrencies. It doesn't have a token incentive layer, but more about using the blockchain technologies to benefit other industries. So like different from other countries where the crypto actions are more about transactions or trading cryptocurrencies or financial fields. In China, it's more about using it to contribute back to the real economy, and also under the general direction of the centralization. And I think this also explains an interesting phenomenon in China now in the Web3 industry, which is that the privately owned companies and platforms are facing lots of struggles and crackdowns, and they are keeping a very low profile. But the national team, or like the state-owned companies or government, are pushing very actively about their metaverse and NFT plans. So it basically shows that even though the private companies used to be leading in this area, they need to step a little bit backwards so that they can follow the more centralized directions. So now, for example, we say even the tech giant named Tencent, they have to shut down their NFT business in the past few months. But the Shanghai government just published a 14.5 metaverse plan just at the same time, and trying to build something big, although other platforms are really struggling.
It's very interesting that you said that. And I also want to know, how would you define the Web3 actually influenced the cultural sector in China? Like, what did you notice so far?
I think from my personal perspective, I think it's a little bit different from the Western definition. It's more about it's about contract economy. So like for the Web3, it's more about building a chain that can benefit the whole blockchain, and you don't need to trust another person. You can already do the business with them. And because China is so big, it has a very complicated and big entity economy. So they need something that they can trust on, but like the trust chain between the business and the customers, and the trust chain between the business and the business. So this is how they use these technologies, but it's not about digital assets. It's still about something physical and something real.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yifan. Let's get back to your editorial practice. From your perspective, if being asked as an editor of Jing Culture and Crypto, what articles or interviews on your platform would you specifically highlight as the most interesting ones? So what would be your reply?
I think the whole industrial profile is pretty worth highlighting, because it's very exclusive, and that's where you can hear lots of key voices from the key players. And apart from that, I think the China section is also very important, and because we have our team members are in China and America, so we have the privilege to get access to the information and resources in both countries, and also we can help both insiders and outsiders perspectives. So it helps us to better interpret this kind of information for our readers, and it's also like a kind of unique competitiveness of our contents. And like there are articles about how the NFT first started in China as digital collectibles, and how we make use of it, even though we have these regulations. So I think it's something unique and new for the overseas audience compared with other websites.
Thank you.
I also noticed that you're hosting webinars. I was going through the website today, and I wanted to actually know, when did you implement this idea? How did you come up with like the idea of webinars for Jing Culture and Crypto? And yeah, what kind of focus do you have when it comes to webinars?
Our webinars are like complements to our regular editorial offers. So it's basically very strongly connected with our editorial interests and focus. We usually just develop these ideas for the purpose of encourage more participation from our audience, and facilitate the industrial communications, and expand our readership. And also because we are a B2B platform, so we really need to use this kind of way to establish professional connections, and establish our credibility in the industry. And but sometimes it's also a great opportunity for our clients. So if they want to spread an announcement, or spread news, or engage with their potential customers, they just reach to us with their ideas, and they usually work out pretty well. So yeah, it's basically just another expansion of our mission.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. And along with webinars, you also have Jing Culture and Crypto's reports. So could you please elaborate more about the reports written by your team?
Yeah, so it's also like the webinars is also strongly connected with our editorial calendar. So it's also about it's really our credibility as a B2B platform, because it can show how professional and educational we can be for our audiences. So for example, we have a report about NFTs and cultural institutions. In that report, we spotlight lots of museums and galleries that are already in this room. And through this kind of expert interviews, organizational test results, case studies, aesthetics, we try to provide a kind of a guide for the museums and other cultural institutions to tap into this crypto world, and show how these technologies can play a role in their fundraising and curation and other efforts. And what's also important is that there are lots of information you can just Google, but we want to tailor it to a way that can be more suitable for our cultural institutions' needs. Like they do not only need to know what fractionalized NFT means, but they also need to know how they can make use of it to get their digital sponsors. Like they don't only need to know POA, PS, but they also need to know how they can use it to encourage the participations. So this is where we can better serve our goals of being bridge. So we interpret it and tailor it and show the opportunities and challenges to them, which are uh, uniquely faced by the cultural institutions compared with other sectors. And yeah, also like our team members are in different countries, so it also helps us to add more unique perspectives to it.
And what was the most recent report that Jing Culture and Crypto published?
Oh, the most important recent it's about the how to tap into the IP licensing industry in China, which is also because we have our members in China doing the research, so we can get lots of information.
Sounds great. We're going to be looking forward to other reports and going to have a look at that for sure. Also, wanted to ask you about your perspective as an editor. Where would you like to see Jing Culture and Crypto in the future, and what kind of vision does the team have overall?
Sure. That's a big question. So for my perspective, I like to say it to become the most influential information source, and also just like what we believe in the art world, which is about forward thinking and into the future. I also hope culture and crypto will become like a guide for the cultural institutions to step into the future, step into Web3 without so many barriers or confusions. And also we hope that we can be a great narrators. So like we're not creating stories out of nowhere like hyper or speculators, but more like we want to observe and record and interpret what we hear and what we experience and change them into something powerful and persuasive. So and also as an editor who grew up in China and spent years in America, I also hope it can be a way for the overseas companies to understand Chinese industry better, and also a way for the Chinese business to spread their influence and culture to the world.
Sounds very inspiring. And I also want to ask you maybe a strange question, but you've been there for more than 2 years since February 2020. How would you define, do you really have strong competitors in your field? Because it's a very unique niche that Jing Culture and Crypto has. How would you define maybe what companies are doing something similar? What kind of companies are you looking at when you're working?
Sure. So because I work a lot for our WeChat accounts in China. In China, I noticed that like as long as there's a new industry and people see lots of business opportunities in it, then there will be lots of people doing this in China. And we see lots of competitors, and they have really they are really good at like collecting all the informations like digital collectible distribution calendars, and they provide it every day. And there are also some accounts that provide the information about which platforms collapse every day. Like because there are so many struggles and frustrations now in this industry, so they provide all this kind of negative or positive information about for the buyers and the investors. And also, but I feel like although they are doing, if you look at the sectors, they are doing something similar, but I think they are different because they mainly focus on the people who are trying to get the money off it, or the investors and buyers. And there are even people, some of their audiences are the people who used to be sculptors or WeChat business, which means like they used to be the people who sell the music concert texts to the people who love music, but they don't know anything about it. They just want to sell it for money. So that's why their pages are filled with information about the money and how much potentials they may have in the future, how much money they may make it by reselling. But they don't talk about the culture, the aesthetics values. So I think that's why we can be like have our unique competitiveness compared with them. Yeah, but there are definitely a lot of accounts doing the similar things, like NFT news or blockchain news, and they are holding webinars too.
Thank you.
We have a lot of questions from our audience. So to begin with, I'm curious. You're doing such big work, yes, but how big is Jing's team, if you can disclose that?
I think it's we have our members are located in different areas. In New York, it's thousands, I guess. But like because after the COVID, we started working remotely, and in overall, it's about like more than 100, and I guess it's like, but they are located in different countries, so I couldn't meet all of them.
Thank you.
Good.
That's a big
the same with Fuelarts. We also can make this parallel. We have our team spread between several states of the of the US and also in Europe.
We have another question from the audience from Veronica. Thanks for sharing this, Yifan. I have a question. What the Western world can learn from China in the ArtTech segment?
I think one thing is the role of government. I guess like because in China, I think there are lots of state-owned media and platforms are now making a huge change in this industry, and it's helping a lot because they can use the regulations to block out the investors and speculators, and they can just focus it more onto something for the public good. And also, I think another thing is about the idea about centralization, because it's not the first time that I heard about this word in the Web3. In the Web1, we started hear about this word too. But in Western countries, I believe they never really achieved this, and I think it's still too early to make that judgment that Web3 is about decentralization. So in China, it shows a different path for the Web3 utility and applications, and I believe that's something that can show a different alternatives and opportunities for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next
this is an interesting question. Yes, we have a question from Xenia. Yifan, thank you for coming today. Which NFT artists are super popular now in China, and which ones are your favorite?
I think actually, the NFT artists famous in China usually from like overseas. There are lots of people using the BYAC's profile pictures, but apart from them, my own favorite it's not an artist but a team. It's called it's a project team called Riverman. So it changed a really huge and famous Chinese painting, which has lots of details about how people were doing business, how people are living in Asian destiny, and they changed the whole pictures into lots of different fractions, and each fraction is in a blank box. So like they send it to people, they launch it to people, and you can only get one black box, and you are not sure which part of the picture you unlocked. So it just increase the fun of like, and also make it more interactive when you join this project. And also it feels like you organize a team with other people who have the similar blank box, and you want to exchange it, you want to have the whole picture to restore. So I really like that. And also I like how they just leverage all this really beautiful Asian Chinese culture and heritage into something new and more digitalized.
Also, touching on that, you've been just talking about museums. I was curious because I was reading recently articles about how museums have been monetizing NFTs. What are the most prominent cases? Like what Chinese museums have been monetizing NFTs already?
I think there. So before the trend of NFTs and metaverse, there's already a trend about cultural creative products in China. So lots of museums are doing it, like the Forbidden City and the Dunhuang Museum. Lots of museums are already starting using the new ways of interactions to attract young audiences, and they make lots of success in the social media, and they get lots of support from the government. And then after the NFTs and metaverse emerged, they sort of use a similar logic to do this business. And for example, there's a collaboration between the Tencent and the Dunhuang Research Institute, which cultural institution in Gansu, So they focus on the Mogao Cave, which is a very important cultural heritage in China and has lots of really beautiful murals and caves and paintings. But because after centuries history, lots of caves are damaged and museums are too fragile. So they have to think of a new way to accept visitors. So they use NFTs and they change all these caves, scan them through very accurate technologies and change them into NFT cards. And also they distribute these NFTs to the participants of their quiz, where they need to answer questions about the culture. So like it's different from the play to win games, because when you are learning it, you're not doing something only for the money, but you already are learning this culture. And when they get a card, what's better is that they become the digital sponsors, which means a certain amount of participation will result in a certain amount donation from the tech companies to the cultural institutions to preserve the caves and murals. So I feel like you don't say anything you don't see much speculation in this whole circulation, but you see lots of great values created in this process.
I'm so happy you mentioned Dunhuang, because I actually, when I was 20, I wrote a paper about Dunhuang and depiction of dance in these caves and about different like style developments and everything. And I didn't even know about this case with NFTs. I'm definitely going to have a look. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Yeah, we have one more question from our audience. Are you planning to visit and present Jing Culture and Crypto during any big conferences which are coming now?
I think I'm not sure so for now, but I guess if there are great opportunities, we are definitely going to be happy to attend. And also, I believe we also have like lots of webinars going on in our country too. So there will be lots of chances for us to communicate with others and other industry professionals or like our audience.
Thank you, Yifan. I have my own personal question. From the experience of the most strategists, sooner or later, they all include such a business model into their practice as a VC company builder. So they just incubate young startups starting from idea stage, because strategists, they see the market, they know the problems, they can create the solutions. So it's obvious that they produce ideas. So a lot of strategists starting from David Zwirner Gallery or Pace Gallery, regarding the art market, Gagosian, Christie's, who else? Of course, Van Contemporary Gallery. So they all produce ideas and bring them into life. So do you think that sooner or later, and have you ever had an idea to make an incubator for the ideas which come from your research and from your very wide vision of the market?
Do you mean like I have make a incubation and
an incubator? Have you ever thought that Jing Culture and crypto finally comes to having its own incubator for ArtTech or for cultural startups in Web3?
It sounds very exciting, but I'm not sure about the Jing Culture Crypto, because the whole Jing group is more about the media. But I feel like if we have enough knowledge and information, then, and also we have reports, and I believe this kind of lots of information from these reports will be very important to incubate ideas. So I guess maybe in the future, if there's a possibilities, but for me, I myself, I feel like I'm still, because I came from a background that is more towards art and culture and media. So like technology is still a bit new for me. So I'm still in the learning process. And if in the future I feel like, oh, I'm ready, I'll be happy to do it, because I see lots of connections between the technology and my own passion about culture and art. because I really love science fiction film and science fiction novels. So I think they are different words, but not so different. So I'll be happy to tap into that word.
Thank you. We have another question from our audience, which is...
We have a question from Anna. How will people consume information in the future? Jing Culture and crypto news, for example.
I feel like in the future, because now we are already noticing like people are getting the way they are reading is becoming more and more fragmented. So they read in their during their break, they read on the phone. They hardly read really long articles. Instead, they read like small bites. And in the future, it can be. I feel like it will be more vivid. It's like a more audio and more videos, and instead of reading very long text. But maybe in the future, like after we get so digitalized, and then there will be a new trend calling go back to the last century, and the people will start read long information again. It's all about how people's values change and how people's habits change, and it's hard to foretell what people will be like after 10 or 20 years. But in the near future, we decide to focus more on the audio or video contents such as podcasts, webinars, and live stream events. And we also held a meeting in a meeting place of a metaverse space. So maybe in the future we'll also use this be a way to pass the information. But after 10 years, I don't know, like maybe we'll go back to read newspapers again.
It's very interesting. We're going to be looking forward to seeing how Jing Culture and crypto will develop. I'm going to read all the sources, whether that's like online, video, text, audio, anything. We're going to stay tuned and stay updated.
Yeah, thank you, Yifan, for visiting us today and for your fantastic everyday job.
Thank you.
And the rest of the audience who's listening to us, watching us now, from now on, you know where to go in search of the fresh and trusted information about art and tech in the big world of Web3.
Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here.